There is a kind of power that no beauty, no charm, no physical touch can ever compete with. The power to reach into a man's inner world and awaken what even he has forgotten. You can touch his body and stir his desire, but that will fade as quickly as it came. What endures, what transforms, is when you touch something deeper. The unseen place within him that longs to be recognized, not conquered. Every man you meet wears a mask, a carefully crafted face of control, confidence and strength. Yet behind that facade lies a story, one filled with fear, tenderness, and unspoken dreams. If you wish to awaken him, do not try to break through that armor. Simply see beyond it. Because what every man truly desires, though he will never say it aloud, is to be accepted in his totality. Strong and soft, rational and vulnerable, confident yet human. When you touch that unseen space, he does not just fall for you, he returns to himself. Every man, no matter how powerful, carries an unspoken ache, a yearning to be loved not for what he achieves, but for who he is beneath all that effort. From childhood, he is told that his worth depends on his ability to perform, protect, and provide. He learns to hide his emotions, to suppress his tenderness, to silence the parts of himself that do not fit the definition of masculine. Over time, he becomes skilled at detachment. He learns to stand tall, to appear unshakable, to move through life as though feelings are a distraction. But the unconscious mind does not forget. Deep within, there is a silent voice that whispers of all that has been denied. The need to be touched, not on the skin, but on the soul. When you meet a man and sense that invisible tension behind his eyes, the part of him that seems both present and distant, you are encountering his buried self. That hidden self is not cold. It is wounded. It hides because it has been told it must. And yet, paradoxically, it longs to be discovered. When you approach him, not with desire to take, but with the intention to understand, you begin to awaken that hidden world. You become, in his psyche, the mirror he never knew he needed. One that reflects not his achievements, but his humanity. To awaken a man is not to overpower his defenses, but to create a space where he no longer needs them. The more you remain grounded in your own calm, the more his unconscious feels safe to reveal itself. When you listen to him, not with curiosity to analyze, but with presence to feel, he senses a rare freedom. In your stillness, he can rest. In your authenticity, he can drop his act. It is in that moment when he no longer feels observed but seen that he begins to surrender, not as a loss of power, but as a relief, a return to truth. Jung would say that the masculine psyche is drawn toward the feminine not merely for pleasure, but for balance. He seeks what he has suppressed, emotion, intuition, tenderness, through the woman who embodies it. Yet if that woman confuses this with possession, the spell breaks. To awaken him, you must embody understanding, not dependency. When you accept his strength and his silence equally, you become the bridge between his conscious and unconscious self. That bridge is where love begins and ego dissolves. Most relationships fail because both try to touch the surface, the physical, the visible, while the true connection waits underneath. A man may desire many, but he will surrender to only one, the woman who speaks the language of his inner world. She does not argue with his silence. She listens to it. She does not try to make him open up. She becomes the space where opening feels natural. She does not seek to control his heart. She simply invites it to unfold. And when it does, when he feels that rare sense of being fully seen, his surrender is not a choice. It is an inevitability. Because deep down, what every man seeks is not to be touched more, but to be understood better. His body reacts to attraction, but his soul responds to truth. So do not rush to touch his body. Awaken what lives within him, the part that no one else has dared to see, and you will hold something far greater than his attention. You will hold his essence, his devotion, and his trust. That is where true surrender begins. Not in the body, but in the silent recognition that someone finally sees the man behind the mask. When a man feels that he has been seen, truly seen beyond the layers of his constructed self, something subtle yet profound begins to shift within him. But awakening that part of him requires something rare, emotional presence. This is not about words, not about convincing or comforting. It is about the energy that exists in silence, the invisible communication that tells his unconscious, "You are safe here." Emotional presence is not performed, it is felt. It cannot be faked because it arises from a woman who is at peace within herself. When she is centered, when her emotions flow without control or chaos, she becomes magnetic. Not because she demands attention, but because her energy draws it naturally. A man can sense when a woman's attention is fragmented. He feels when she listens only to reply, when she seeks validation rather than connection. But he also feels when she is present, when she looks at him without judgment, when her gaze neither seeks nor avoids, when she is simply there. That presence touches his nervous system more deeply than any physical gesture. In her presence, he begins to relax, often without knowing why. It's as if his entire being recognizes that it can stop performing. This is the moment where his masculine energy surrenders, not to dominance or seduction, but to balance. You see, the unconscious mind is always searching for equilibrium. A man who lives in constant doing, achieving, and thinking finds rest in the energy of being. When a woman embodies that state of being, calm, grounded, emotionally aware, she becomes a living reminder of what he's missing. His attraction to her becomes more than desire. It becomes a yearning for inner wholeness. Her stillness speaks to the chaos he hides. Her sensitivity mirrors the emotions he represses. Through her emotional presence, she awakens in him a forgotten harmony between his strength and his softness. Jung understood that relationships are not merely emotional bonds. They are psychological processes. Each partner's energy shapes the other's evolution. When you remain emotionally present, you unconsciously invite a man to meet you in that same depth. But if you lose yourself in his moods or his distance, you reinforce his need to guard himself. Presence, therefore, is not passive, it is powerful. It tells his unconscious that there is room for his vulnerability, that his emotions will not drown you, that his truth will not drive you away. And this, to a man who has spent his life equating love with performance, is revolutionary. In emotional presence, there is no demand to change him. You allow him to exist as he is while still being fully rooted in yourself. You become the calm in his storm, not by fixing, not by explaining, but by embodying steadiness. A man may not understand this consciously, but his body, his emotions, and his intuition feel it. He will find himself thinking of you in quiet moments, not because you said something clever or looked perfect, but because in your presence he felt a peace he cannot find anywhere else. And yet, emotional presence does not mean self-erasure. It is not about waiting for him to awaken or sacrificing your energy to keep him calm. It means staying connected to your own center while holding space for his. It is the ability to witness his emotions without becoming lost in them. It is to breathe when he withdraws, to stay soft when he hardens, to trust the rhythm of connection and space. This balance creates polarity, a psychological tension that deepens intimacy rather than destroying it. When a man experiences this kind of presence, he begins to associate love with expansion, not fear. The walls that once protected him now feel unnecessary. He no longer fears being known. He begins to crave it. He begins to show you parts of himself he thought were unacceptable. And when he does, he is not testing you. He is returning to himself through you. That is the moment of surrender, not the surrender of power, but of pretense. He lets go of who he thinks he must be and becomes who he truly is. So, when you wonder what makes a man stay, remember this. It is not beauty, nor charm, nor even passion. It is the quiet consistency of emotional presence, the ability to be with him not as an image of who he should be, but as the witness of who he already is. That is how a man's heart opens, not through pressure, but through peace. And it is in that peace, that sacred space where masks dissolve, that something deeper begins to unfold, the awakening of the unconscious through connection. This is not just about emotional intimacy. It is a merging of two psychological worlds. When you connect with a man at this level, you are not simply relating to his surface, his words, his gestures, his charm, but to the hidden layers beneath them. You are touching the archetypal part of his psyche that longs to be seen and integrated. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole. And true connection, the kind that transcends seduction and enters the realm of soul, accelerates that journey. Every man carries within him a hidden feminine, what Jung called the anima. It represents his capacity to feel, to love, to intuit, to create. Yet most men, taught to value logic over emotion, repress this part of themselves. They fear it, misunderstand it, or hide it behind layers of control. When you meet a man not with need or admiration, but with awareness and warmth, you invite this part of him to awaken. You don't have to say anything extraordinary. Your presence, your empathy, your ability to remain grounded in truth becomes the mirror through which his unconscious sees itself. This awakening is subtle. It doesn't come with dramatic moments, but with quiet recognitions. He might begin to notice how his emotions move through him differently, how his resistance softens when he's near you, how he feels both vulnerable and safe in ways that defy explanation. What's happening here is not manipulation, it's resonance. His unconscious is responding to the energy of wholeness that you embody. You become, in Jungian terms, a psychological catalyst. Someone who unconsciously helps another integrate what they've long suppressed. That's why, in deep connection, attraction is not merely physical, it's existential. He doesn't just want you, he wants to be the version of himself that he becomes when he's with you. But here's the paradox. Awakening his unconscious doesn't mean guiding him or fixing him. It means trusting the intelligence of connection itself. The more you try to direct the process, the more you interrupt it. The unconscious doesn't respond to control. It responds to truth. Your authenticity is what stirs his depth. When you speak from your real emotions, when you allow silence to breathe between words, when you express rather than explain, you create the space for him to meet himself through you. This is the kind of connection that changes people. It's not built on external attraction or emotional dependency, but on mutual awakening. He feels drawn to you because, at a level he cannot name, he senses growth. And that is the purest form of magnetism. It's not the thrill of conquest, but the comfort of recognition. You remind him of something he's been missing. The feeling of being alive, of being whole, of being home. So, if you wish to awaken a man's true self, don't try to impress him, seduce him, or change him. Instead, practice 3 subtle arts. First, remain deeply present. Second, listen beyond words, feel the emotions beneath them. And third, let your energy speak before your voice does. When you embody peace, his defenses melt. When you honor truth, his unconscious awakens. And when you connect from soul rather than strategy, he doesn't just fall for you, he surrenders to the connection itself, because in the end, what truly captivates a man isn't the touch of your body, but the power of your awareness. It's the rare kind of energy that speaks to both his heart and his hidden depths. The one that reminds him that love, in its truest form, is not about possession, but transformation. If you felt something stir within while listening to this, it's because your soul recognizes truth. Don't just touch the surface, learn to awaken what lies beneath. Subscribe to Hidden Words for more deep, Jung-inspired insights into love, desire, and the unconscious mind. Like, share, and join our growing community of thinkers who believe real attraction begins within.